I don't know why this was surprising to me, but both Apple and Samsung are still selling toxic watch bands made out of PFAS, the toxic forever chemical. Those cause cancer. So it was about a year ago that the study came out showing that Samsung Galaxy watch bands and Apple Watch sports bands leached PFAS, the toxic forever chemical. So that happened a year ago, and now there have been like multiple lawsuits against these companies for making their sports watch bands out of this fluoroelastomer material, which leaches cancer-causing chemicals, right? Obviously, if your product is like leaching toxic cancer-causing chemicals into people's bodies, like you'd think that you would do the right thing and like change the material. Yeah, no. So PFAS, that stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. That's a huge group of over 14,000 chemicals, right? They build up in our bodies with every tiny little bit that we ingest. And yes, they are linked to lots of different types of cancer. And the material that's used in those sports bands, that material is called fluoroelastomer. It's basically a rubber that is mixed with PFAS, right? There was a study last year that went and tested all of these different sports watch bands, and they found that the expensive ones made from that material leached this PFHXA and in pretty high concentrations, right? PFHXA has also been found to be neurotoxic in developing brains. So how are Apple and Samsung still using this material? Well, because we now know that companies aren't going to do the right thing unless there are regulations on them, right? However, the argument that I think they would probably use if someone asked them why they're still using this is they would say, well, we don't know if our skin actually absorbs PFAS. And certainly I got that comment a lot when I posted about this last year. A lot of people said, you can't absorb things through your skin. I don't understand how people think that, because we definitely absorb things through our skin, both microplastics as well as lots of harmful chemicals. So we had evidence before last year that we absorb PFHXA through our skin. We have even more now. What's even crazier is that in a recent study, they tested PFHXA specifically for dermal absorption, all right? And what's weird is, yes, it was definitely absorbed, into your bloodstream, but they also found that it damaged the skin. It specifically said PFHXA exposure led to scaly lesions, holes, and protrusions on the skin. So yeah, I literally got like hundreds of comments last year of people saying the exact same thing. There were hundreds of people in my comments saying that they got a rash or like, irritation when wearing the Apple Watch sports bands. And so they had like stopped wearing it altogether, or they had switched out that band. That same recent study went on saying this broke down the skin, actually making it more likely that you would absorb toxic chemicals through the skin because that barrier was broken down. What is good though, from that study, they found that the damage caused by PFHXA at lower concentrations might actually be reversible, right? If that exposure was ended. So will Apple and Samsung ever stop using this material? I don't know. I mean, PFHXA is banned in Europe, okay? So if they're using fluoroelastomer, they wouldn't be able to use it after the full ban goes into place. Also, the state of Minnesota has actually banned all PFAS from consumer products. However, I'm unsure of whether or not the Apple Watch sports band, like if that falls under the purview of that law. So if you live in Minnesota, I would really appreciate it if you could tell me in the comments if you can still buy Apple Watch sports bands with fluoroelastomer. What they could also do though is just switch out that PFHXA, switched out for another PFAS that doesn't fall under the official definition, so they can still keep selling their toxic products and say that we don't have evidence that it's bad for you, but like, we do, dude.